we are with you for a bit longer today, our own extra time due to the World Cup. So all this week in our series, Sort Out Your Summer, we are delving into some of your favourite topics. We've got experts on everything from the royals to health to skincare. And today we're tackling finances with consumer editor Claer Barrett, but more specifically, wills, because half of adults don't have a will. That's right, Claire, yeah?
More than half.
More than half.
Yeah, more than half. And I've been asking people backstage whether they've got one or not, and lots of the ladies haven't. I said, why is that? It's because they think it will be really difficult to sort out and cost a lot of money. So let's bust the taboos, because talking about money and death obviously is a double taboo, but it doesn't take a lot of time to sort out. If you make your will online, it could take just 12 minutes using a digital provider, and it could cost as little as £100 if your affairs are quite simple.
Is there a gender element to this? I mean, do you think women are less likely to get into that? I mean, you've got your book, What They Don't Teach You About Money, which is really focused on women and their finances, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I think for women, the big danger with wills is that we'll lose out if our partners haven't made one with us, because women tend to outlive their partners. Demographically, we tend to marry men who are slightly older than us, and men die before women. So we're kind of at risk. If you're not married...
All the women on this panel, by the way, are the opposite.
Well, my husband's going to be 61 in July. But if you look at the situation, if you're not married and you die, you're not married or in a civil partnership in England and Wales, you really are at risk, because your partner could die. If they die intestate, which means they haven't got a will, the law decides who gets the assets. And people think, oh, we've lived together for 20 years, I'm his common law wife. There's no such thing under the law. If you die intestate, your assets will pass to your blood relatives and not the person you love, who you've been living with. And to actually be able to unpick that and sort that out, the family arguments that can result from that, for the sake of 12 minutes and £100, that's why I think you should get your summer sorted and talk about doing it now.
I think some of the problem is as well is that people have this fear of, I'm tempting fate, I'm going to make this will, because I had that. Yeah. I'm going to make this will. I only made it in my
you've got one, have you?
In my very late 50s, just before I turned 60, really, I thought I need to make a will. But building up to it, I thought, I bet I die the next day, or something's going to happen, and I was scared. Can I just say, once I did it, I had the biggest adrenaline rush of happiness I've ever... Yeah.
Why?
Because I thought, I can breathe now and know that my family, especially my children, are going to be fine, because it's all there. And it was such a sense of relief, And I didn't think I would have that. I thought I'd still be scared. I really wasn't. I thought it was an amazing feeling.
Well, the oddest thing can trigger people to do it. And solicitors do say that being superstitious is a reason that people put it off. But one of the online will providers, Fair Will, they told me that when famous people die, they actually see an uptick in people making their wills, because it triggers us to think, well, you know, I'm the same age as that person, or if they could die, it could happen to me. Members of the royal family dying, they've seen really big upticks. COVID, because people suddenly thought, what would happen if I die? I mean, that's a really good question to go home and ask your partner if you haven't got a will. Just say, if one of us were to die, what would happen? You know, what about the property we live in? What about your pensions? Because pensions are a tricky one, because they actually pass outside of wills. So you need to fill in a form called an expression of wish form for all of the different pensions you've got. But the good news with that is that now most of the big pension providers have got an app. You can do it on the app in less than a minute. In most of them. So I think it's really good that they're making the admin easier, because clearly the admin is a bit of a barrier for them.
I only made a will probably about 15 years ago. I'd had a company for many, many years, but I should have had a will, because obviously through the company I had assets and stuff like that. So I made a will. I did what you said. I had a list of my wishes, the people that I felt were special friends that should be singled out. And I had, which I think is very important, because in a will, you've got your main assets, which is what's the money you've got in the bank, your only property and big stuff. But then you've got your friends, and you want to make sure you're giving stuff to them. And I would say to people watching, write it all down in a book, and that is separate to your will, and it is like your book of wishes.
Yeah, a solicitor would call it a letter of wishes.
Yeah, a letter of wishes. Yeah. But of course, I hadn't realised that when I got married, my will was negated and now I have to do a new will. And now I'm in a right mess. I mean, it's not because I'm argumentative or anything like that. I think it is quite complicated when two older people get married.
Blended
because
families
they've got, blended families. They've got things, people and assets and people they want to give stuff to. And then you've got the whole issue of if one of you dies before the other, what's going to happen? It is quite complicated.
It gets more complicated, I think, if you're in a situation like that. And that's when it's worth talking, sitting down with a firm of solicitors, maybe on a high street, who could talk to you about other options. Because one of the biggest problems I see of where there has been a second marriage, maybe one person dies, the other person inherits the estate. You have what's called a mirror will, so the same outcome happens. And then the children of the first person, what happens to them if their step-parent then goes on and marries again? So, I mean, you can do things like setting up trusts. Obviously, they cost money, but just setting out your wishes clearly and also talking to your loved ones while you're still alive about what you want to happen and giving them some kind of idea about what to expect. Although, again, some people don't want to do that.
It's a difficult conversation for a lot of people. You've got something there which you've tried to make jolly with these lovely Mexican stickers.
I have. This is my death file.
It's your death file. Yeah. Tell us what's in your death file, Claire.
OK, so the reason I have this is because so much of our financial lives now are online. Now, it used to be the case that you could maybe go through somebody's paperwork and find out where their bank account was or who their home insurance was with or where their life insurance documents might be. But a lot of the time, it's all online. So I've got this file. I've got a book in here. You can buy it online. It's called I'm Dead Now What? It's actually done by an American firm. But you can fill this in as you go. You know, there's tabs for all kinds of things, including what you want to happen to your pets. Things like that. Your funeral wishes. I mean, that's worth thinking about because it's awful for people to have to second guess what you would have wanted. And then I've got all of my documents in here, copy of our wills, my lasting power of attorney. That's like a living will, so that if something happens to you while you're still alive and you lose capacity, somebody can step in, a trusted person, to sort out your property and financial affairs and also your health affairs. That you can do online or with a solicitor. And then I've also got my pension information, but also my death in service benefit. All of these things have got quite complicated names. But if you're if you're employed through a company, often, and it might be part of the pension, if you die while you're still employed by the company, your partner will be paid a death in service benefit. But especially if you're not married, again, you often need to fill out a form. So the form that I filled out is in the folder, and so is my life insurance, and everything's there. And the kids, importantly, know where this is.
I was going to say, you need to put it somewhere where they can find it.
It's pretty unmissable.
Yeah. Can I just ask, is there a difference between power of attorney and an executor of a will? Is that the same thing or a different thing?
It's a different thing. So the executor of a will is the person who you've appointed to legally administrate your estate after you've died. The power of attorney, in some ways, that's more important because they need to make decisions for you while you're still alive, but you've lost capacity. Now, it's not just for people with dementia. You know, this could be if you have to go into hospital.
I did that with my mother when she was in hospital. And she didn't have dementia, but she was clearly not capable of making important decisions. So I had to be my mother's power of attorney, but I was not the executor of a will. She had appointed a firm of solicitors to do that.
Yeah, you can appoint a firm of solicitors. Of course, if some people use their children, but if you appoint one child as your executor or as your power of attorney and not another child, you need to have a conversation about that because solicitors tell me it can cause huge arguments.
Family fallout.
Well, it's such a sensitive time, and you know, when people have experienced a bereavement and grief, then often that they're not thinking quite as sort of rationally as they might otherwise, which is why it's so important to have these things prepared in advance as much as you possibly can.
To make it easy for those who
as easy as
behind,
possible,
because it's going to be a horrendous time for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make it easy. Put some stickers on to jazz
Put your
up.
stickers on your death file. Claire, listen, thank you very much. It is really important stuff. And Claire's book, What They Don't Teach You About Money, is out now.